Could I invite Mary Brennan forward, please?
Right, good afternoon everyone. I'm actually here to talk about a very basic thing, and that's the increases to the general and rural rates. And I'll try and go as quickly as I can because I've been practising to keep under the 5 minutes. The proposed nearly 40% rate increase over 4 years and 75% over 10 years is excessive and a financial burden that ratepayers cannot afford. Ratepayers have their own earthquake expenses, problems, and a budget that they must live within. Many have a fixed income, and most do not have the luxury of regular increases that keep pace with or surpass inflation or the proposed rate increases. Tenants too will be affected. Already, high rents will be forced up even further. The reality is, council proposals and ECANs are asking that ratepayers go without to fund many schemes and dreams that are optional or can be delayed. Most do not have a spare $1,000, $2,000 or $5,000 each year, and you seem unaware of this or the impact of your draft plan on them. I find it difficult to believe that you are removed from the average person's plight, that you think an 8% yearly increase, cumulatively closer to 40%, is okay. The proposed increases to rates seem to have been minimised by the media, 8%, and fallen under the radar of many ratepayers. My curiosity was piqued, so I canvassed everyone I met. Most were unaware of the 4-year rate increase proposal, and when made aware, thought it too much. Why did they not speak out? 2 reasons, really. 1, they didn't know. They were absorbed in their own lives and problems. And 2, would they really be heard? Would it make any difference? A question I indeed ask myself. While most appreciate council's predicament and insurance woes, they are not in a position to fund council or SERA aspirations. Council needs to live within its means, like ratepayers have to. I have seen 2 alternative budgets that show that this is possible. A longer view, 20 to 30 years, is perhaps necessary. The existing wish list, non-essential items and new spending needs to be cut significantly and or delayed. The proposed changes to the rural differential rating is flawed. An additional 25% on top of everything creates a heavy financial burden. Rural properties are not urban properties and should not be rated as such. Rural landowners should continue to pay a lower rate in recognition of the lower level of services provided by the council: no footpaths, sewers, streetlights, bus stops, adjacent parks, services, community facilities, etc. The proposed criteria of rateable land value being more than 2/3 of the rateable capital value is not a transparent or a reliable marker of rural land use function. In fact, it is discriminatory towards new housing and smaller land holdings. On our 8 acres, it would allow us a maximum new build of $280,000. It's quite unrealistic in today's climate. The age or relative value of the house is not an indicator of rural use. The proposed changes to qualification criteria for rural rating differentials do not reflect the rural status or land use of a property. 5 hectares is too arbitrary a cut-off point. This is unfair on smaller holdings where farming activities are similar. In our area, these smaller holdings, medium-sized 2.8 hectares, are predominantly older and well-established properties with a long history of farming activity. Farming land use is a more pertinent measure and does occur on 2 to 4 hectare holdings. The proposed criteria do not effectively reveal actual rural land use. The proposed criteria are also inequitable. The changes would see some neighbours living in the same area or road receiving the rural differential and others not. For example, a $1.5 million house on 6 hectares would get the differential. A $450,000 home on 3.6 hectares would not. The cumulative total general and rural rate increase for us amounts to a 100% increase in rates over 4 years. This is a financial burden which ultimately cannot be absorbed and will force people off the land that they have worked and lived on for decades. Is that the intent? Are rural ratepayers being overcharged for planned services works that seem to predominantly benefit the urban community? In conclusion, there is scope for considerable savings in the budget. These should be explored. Council is too reliant on ratepayers for funding and needs to minimise future rate increases. The general public needs to be consulted more directly and simply, perhaps online survey, and asked what they would prefer and common sense applied to what is a need and a wish. The existing proposed long-term plan creates future financial problems for ratepayers. Another way forward needs to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I think you'll find that we are listening, and making a submission does make a difference. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think Sheila Bassett hasn't arrived, is that right? So.